And the editor said, no. The paper will not get published unless you remove that sentence.
Is the scientific paper system rigged? Avi Loeb reveals the anomalies in 3I Atlas, why they may not be natural, and the sentence editors forced him to remove.
Let's go back to, I don't want one more time. Oumuamua. Okay, yeah. I don't want to screw it up. How large was that?
That was the size of a football field.
Okay, so
of order 100 meters.
Small in comparison to 3I Atlas.
Oh yeah, that's my point, that 3I Atlas is 1 million times more massive, at least 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua. Right. And I immediately, as it was discovered, it was July 1st, and my wife asked me to go on vacation to Aruba 2 days later. And as I was going on the plane and as I arrived there, I realized, wait, that doesn't make sense because we should have seen millions of Oumuamuas before we saw this one. It's so big.
In astronomy, detection usually follows size distribution. Smaller objects are far more common than larger ones. So if a very large interstellar object appears first, without thousands of smaller detections beforehand, that challenges expectations.
And I also realized there is not enough rocky material per unit volume in interstellar space to deliver such a giant rock into the inner solar system within a period of a decade. You would expect it at the very optimistic scenario where you package all the material into objects that are 5 kilometers in diameter. You would imagine once per 10,000 years. So I wrote immediately a scientific paper. My wife was not happy that, on our vacation, I was sitting on my computer, but I just couldn't resist it.
Right.
And by the way, this paper I submitted for publication. That was July 3rd or something. And then the editor said, oh, the paper is fine, but you have a concluding sentence at the end where you say, well, unless the object is smaller than estimated, maybe it was targeting the inner source. That was my solution to say, one way out of this dilemma of why is it so big is if it was targeting the inner solar system by design. And indeed, the trajectory is aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees. The chance for that at random is 1 in 500, okay? And it's moving in a retrograde trajectory opposite to the motion of the planets, which is ideal for it to release mini probes that will get into the planets. It gets close to Mars, it gets close to Jupiter, it goes on the opposite side of the sun relative to Earth when it's closest to the sun. And that's the time when a spacecraft could do a maneuver to take advantage of the sun's gravitational assist. All of these are interesting indications that may imply that some intelligence designed the trajectory. So I had one sentence at the end of the paper saying, maybe the trajectory was designed. And the editor said, no. The paper will not get published unless you remove that sentence.
Wow.
So now when you listen to comet experts that say, well, this claim or that claim was never published in a peer-reviewed journal, guess what? They are the editors or the reviewers who are blocking the discussion on possibilities. And I think it's inappropriate, especially in the case of alien technology, because it could be a black swan event. It could be something that affects the future of humanity. And if we behave, very conservatively, we might not last very long.
Well, it's also arrogant.
It's arrogant.
Yeah. This object shows that there's no iron.
Oh, no. So then the composition of the plume of gas around
this is before you knew about the composition.
That's right.
That you wrote this paper.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
so as time is going on, you are being shown to be correct.
Well, we found more anomalies.
More anomalies. So this is not a normal thing.
Not a normal thing. So for one thing, there was a glow that looks like an extended feature. And everyone said, oh, that's a tail. That's the signature of a comet.
Right.
And I said, wait a minute, it's pointing towards the sun. It's not pointing away from the sun. Usually cometary tails are made of dust and gas, which is pushed back away from the sun by the radiation and the solar wind. And so this one was pointed towards the sun, not away from the sun. And the question is, why? And actually, I calculated that it appeared very clearly in the sharpest image we had from the Hubble Space Telescope, which showed an elongation by a factor of 2 towards the sun. But we were looking at it like a cigar, within 10 degrees of the object-sun axis. And I calculate if you were to correct for that, this would be a feature that is 10 times longer than it is wide. And that means it's like a jet. So the object had a jet in front of it towards the sun. The question is why? And, the comet experts ignored it and just said, well, comets are strange. Who knows? But my point is, this is a blind date of interstellar proportions. And my advice on blind dates is not to speak or say what you think this is, but to observe the other side. The best way to respond to a blind date is to observe the other side. Don't speak, just observe the other side, because it may be different than what you think. And maybe, on one of the dates, you will have a serial killer on the other side.
Oh, boy.